Greetings, YouTube. Once again, happy Monday. We all had just one new in-game inbox message when noon Central Standard Time hit, and that is the return of the dungeon, something that has gotten way worse since Kabam put the ridiculous timers on 5 and especially 6-star champions, trying to get you to have to spend units to refresh those champions because many people do not have a huge stacked roster that they could do multiple days of their best rank 4 and rank 5 5-stars or rank 2 6-stars and yet can still compete, especially those of you who barely just got enough 5-stars to even open the 5-star dungeon crystals. So that has been annoying, and I've received a lot of complaints about that behind the scenes in the lineup. But one thing is for certain, the 5-star dungeon crystals, which is what we're going to be talking about today, still hold significant value to get really good champions for quote-unquote free if you're able to not spend units on refreshes or at least cut down on the number of units and just open those 5-star dungeon crystals. And as always, we do this about 3 to 4 times a year because these dungeon crystals refresh themselves about once every 3 months. We rank the best and worst of the dungeon crystals with the champions that are in the pool. And we have some new straight banger and some not so straight banger dungeon crystals to talk about. We're going to go ahead and claim our crystal on this video as well. What's up, 4-hour crystal? Remember to hoard those. I'm up to 268 myself. But remember that you need to go to store dungeons to see these dungeon crystals. And if you don't see the 5-stars, if you only see the 3 and the 4, it's because you don't have the minimum number of 5-stars, which is what, around 15, 16 5-stars to see the 5-star crystals. Now, there also have been people who made some huge mistakes because they thought that if they didn't spend their dungeon artifacts that they would lose them, even though Kabam has said in recent months that you can hoard, I think, over 50,000 dungeon artifacts or about 2 5-star crystals worth of dungeon artifacts before they roll out of that ability to cap in your inventory. So don't panic if the crystals go away. New ones will return. Dungeons will return. It's usually on a 2-week on, 2-week off cycle. So just be patient and don't make the mistake that some made, especially this past week or two, where they bought a 4-star dungeon crystal, even though all they wanted was a 5-star dungeon crystal, just because they thought they were going to lose their artifacts. It won't happen. That is a Prof Huff PSA. So we are going to go to the top left, and we're going to talk. I'm going to just break this down for simplicity's sake into 3 categories. Is this champion a dud? Are they a stud? Or are they a game-changing top-tier champ? And let's see how much chaos we can cause, because Iceman is a game-changing champ still with the triple immunity and other utility, like slowing down evade champs. I know some people are not as high on Iceman because his damage is not the best, but I still love Iceman and think he is an amazing champion, even unawakened. Game-changing champ if you pull an Iceman, especially for nodes that deal with poison and bleed. Now, Black Widow is not a game-changing champion out of the box. She needs to be a high sig, and there are so many good skill champs. Even Ronin just coming out, that I feel like, should you put your sig stones in a Black Widow? Probably not, especially if you can put them in like Aegon or Blade. But I'll still say she's a stud. Green Goblin, stud, especially for defense. I still think that 6-star Green Goblin causes massive problems on defense for war. Rocket Raccoon, stun. Definitely not a dud. I think Rocket Raccoon a bit underrated, but still good. Venom the Duck could be a game-changing champion if you know how to play Venom the Duck. Phoenix, I'm just going to say she's a dud. Great for prestige, and that's about it. Mordo, on defense, he's kind of gone away, but he can still be somewhat of a stud. Attacker, huge dud. Iron Fist, I think, is underrated. In fact, I don't know if it's true or not. People have been theorizing for months that he got a silent buff. But I'm going to say he's somewhere between stud and dud. Rhino, even though I think he's fun to play, I'm going to say dud. And Hulk, stud. So this is a very solid crystal. Iceman and Venom the Duck are clearly the best 2 champions in this crystal. So if I was to put a grade on this, I'd say B- to B. There are better crystals out there, but at least there aren't a crazy amount of duds. In the past, we've seen 5 out of 10 of these champs, or half of the pool, be straight duds. So you have a coin flip of getting a trash champ. Okay, now we're going to go to the Nightmare Crystal. Blade, game changer, still my favorite champion awakened to play in the game because of that infinite regeneration boost when you can convert up to 71% health via power. Iron Man Infinity War, underrated attacker and still a very solid defender, somewhere between stud and game changer, but definitely not in the level of Blade. So we're just going to say a high level stud. Kamala Khan, Satan herself, even though she's in the dud category, she could be buffed this year, so stay tuned for that. Angela is a stud. Doctor Strange used to be a game-changing champion. Now he's just in between a dud and a stud. I'll be generous and say stud. Hood, stud. Great also with the Quantum Realm Trinity. Sentry, dud. Spider-Man Miles Morales, dud. Cyclops, major dud. And Gambit, unfortunately, compared to other champions, is a dud. He needs a buff badly. So, you have great champs at the top with Blade, and then, or I guess I should say a great champ, and then some very solid champs near the top. Iron Man Infinity War and Angela are good. Hood, Doctor Strange is fine, but I would say if you don't have Blade, this is a no-brainer to try to get Blade for free, but if you do have Blade, stay away from this crystal. With Blade in it, I have to give it a B+. If you have Blade, I'm going to give this a C- for grade. It comes in worse overall than the Chaos Crystal. Now, let's start at the beginning, apparently, because we're in Genesis. Star-Lord needs to be awakened, and ideally at high sig, but I still love Star-Lord. I think awakened, he can be a game-changing champion for your roster. Proxima Midnight is a stud. Certainly not Star-Lord 2.0, while a lot of people thought, even though she is right next to Star-Lord, ironically, in this crystal. Dr. Voodoo needs to be awakened as well, but he is a stud and almost borderline game-changing champion, so 3 really solid champs starting out. Loki is definitely underrated, although the passive debuff thing that Kabam is now doing is shady as heck, has nerfed his buff steal a little bit, but I still think he's solid enough to be in between a stud and a dud, but in terms of the others, you got to put him as a dud. Ant-Man hits like a tank with the Quantum Realm synergy, but otherwise is a dud. Captain America OG, I'm going to put as a dud, especially for attack. Psylocke, somewhere between a stud and a dud for power control. Colossus, dud, though he is going to get a major buff, and maybe that is going to make him go straight to stud mode. Agent Venom, I still like him. Think he's a stud, pretty much underrated. And Daredevil, unfortunately, we have not seen a 5-star OG Daredevil, so I'm going to assume this is Netflix Daredevil, and he is a dud. But overall, I think this is a really interesting crystal because Star-Lord, Proxima Midnight, Dr. Voodoo are all solid champs, and Agent Venom is definitely not bad. Then you've got some commons in Ant-Man and Captain America. Colossus, who is going to be improved, and then Daredevil. So I'm going to say this is kind of like a B- to B as well. You have a decent chance. Colossus getting a buff has definitely made this a much more desirable crystal than it would have been before. The 5-star Evolution Crystal. Corvus. Straight banger. Amazing. If you don't have 5-star Corvus, you're going to want to go for this crystal automatically. Dormammu is a stud on D and an underrated attacker for power control especially. Spider-Man Classic is a stud on D still, awakened, and is kind of fun to play with attack, kind of in between stud and dud. Abomination needs to be awakened and at high... well, I guess it's technically not high sig, right? I don't know that much about Abomination. I'm going to be completely honest, but I do know you need him to be awakened. I think he's on for defense. He could be a stud, but offensively he's a dud. Rogue, stud, underrated. X-23 is a stud, one of my favorite champs, still an Alliance Quest beast for me in Map 5. Black Panther Civil War is a decent stud for defense, though he's kind of lost value. A dud for attack. Falcon dud. Howard the Duck dud. And Iron Patriot dud. Basically the meme tier to end this thing. But a really well-balanced crystal when you consider Corvus and X-23 and Dormammu. Certainly Corvus is the most attractive part of this. And Abomination, a lot of people don't have him as a 5-star. I'm going to put this somewhere around a solid B. Again, if you need Corvus, kind of like Blade, go for this crystal. If you don't, I'd stay away. Now we are going to go from Evolution to War. And we're going to talk about my man, Ghost Rider, a champion that I have at rank 565. He's now up to like Sig 162. And my goodness, I love Ghost Rider. I think he is borderline game-changing champion. I know people who don't even use the OG Holy Trinity, and still Ghost Rider is their main MVP because of the guaranteed regen and the ability to, especially Awakened, have a very solid Fury, especially if you're able to time that right and then reset with that special 3. I think Ghost Rider is an amazing champion. Luke Cage, since his buff, is a huge stud. Archangel, Awakened, especially, could be a game changer, though Sentinels have kind of nerfed some of Archangel's power to the ground for Alliance Quest. I still love Archangel. Sabretooth, wow. What Ghost Rider, Luke Cage, Archangel, and Sabretooth, the best 4 champs we've seen to start a Crystal so far. Elektra is a bit underappreciated. I would say somewhere between stud and dud, but still has lost some value. Kingpin, definitely a dud. Punisher 2099 has some war value, and I've seen some people do some decent video for attack, but I think in general, more of a dud than stud. Hulkbuster, unfortunately, is a dud, but I have faith that Hulkbuster will be buffed at some point. Kabam has said multiple times that he is on their short list of buff champs, as is Venompool, even though better than Hulkbuster. And this is not Ronan, the new Hawkeye. This is the old Ronan, who has value, especially Awakened a couple times a year for the event quest boss to keep that stun duration at infinite, but very common to get as a 5-star. I'm still going to say somewhere between stud and dud. But this is a really interesting, great, balanced Crystal. I think it's a B+. There's no, like, holy cow, you got Blade or Corvus, but between Archangel and Sabretooth, Ghost Rider, and Luke Cage, those are all, that's a 40% chance to get a really solid champion if you don't have those champions. And then if you miss and you get Hulkbuster, who could be buffed at some point, Ronan is a solid miss, especially if you don't have one Awakened. Venompool also could get a buff. Basically, the only champ I wouldn't really want to get out of this is probably Kingpin, but even then, there are worse champs than him out there. Now, we have saved what I believe is the best for last, because the Death Crystal is incredible. Hulk Ragnarok is somewhere between a game-changing champion and a stud, depending on how you play with them. Great value for both attack and defense. Emma Frost is a champion that I've been trying to get from the 5-star Crystal for months, haven't been able to do it. She is still a very underrated attacker, and even though as a defender she's not the game changer we thought, she's still a very solid defender. Massacre is the reason why I'm going to be going for this Crystal. Massacre I need for Act 6. I cannot bring my 4-star Massacre in, and so my 6-star Domino has a limited duration of use when it comes to synergies for Act 6, and I really want to change that with Massacre. Karnak needs a buff desperately. Certainly is better with the Medusa synergy, but I think he is a dud. Spider-Man Starkenhanst, are you kidding me? You just saved him as the 4th champion in this. Still a game changer. Doesn't need to be Awakened to be amazing, but the Awakened ability certainly helps a lot. Civil Warrior is a power control underrated champ, but still more of a dud than a stud. Carnage. I also don't have a Carnage. Would love to have a Carnage. He is a stud after his buff. King Groot is a dud. Juggernaut Awakened is fine, but definitely a dud. And Thor Jane Foster, better than a lot of people give her credit for, especially with the infinite stun lock, if you can spam that special one and get the shock to replenish. But I'll say for the sake of this, a dud. But overall, you're kidding me. Hulk Ragnarok, Emma Frost, Massacre, Spider-Man Starkenhanst, and Carnage, half the champions are incredible in this Crystal. I'm going to give this an A-, about a 92%. It's the best one in there, and certainly is, if you don't have Stark Spidey, you got to go for this, because there's so many great misses if you don't get Stark Spidey. I have Stark Spidey. I'm still going to go for this, really, because of Massacre and Emma Frost more than anything, and I need an Awakened Hulk Rag as well. So many great options for this. I need Carnage. Don't even have him. If Venom was in this, I'd really be going crazy, but, let's not get too greedy. So there you have it. We have graded every new 5-star Dungeon Crystal. For those of you who have asked, I will at some point do a 4-star version, even though if you are close, if you have like 12 or 13 5-stars, save your dungeon artifacts. Don't throw them at 4-star dungeon crystals. You'll be so thankful that you have the available artifacts as soon as you're able to purchase that 5-star. So be patient. The key to this game really is patience in so many ways. I say that in almost every video. Thanks for watching, YouTube. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that this helps you make the best decision for your roster when it comes to which 5-star dungeon crystal to purchase.